All right, welcome back to I Coach Nutrition Radio. Guys, today we're bringing back on the podcast Mr. Rick. We had him on before, kind of telling his testimonial, his success story, if you will, and kind of sharing his journey. And today we are going to get to dive into a topic of something that's coming up starting tomorrow, right? And so Rick's going to kind of talk to us all about what that is, and then him and I are going to kind of dive into some nutrition strategy coming up here for this next month. So Rick, what's going on, brother? How are you?
What's up, Justin? How are you? Thanks for doing this, man. It's pretty awesome. I'm excited.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited. Your podcast last time was a hit, man. So thank you. Dude, so first off, what are we getting on? What are we hopping on the podcast to talk about today?
Yeah, so Ramadan starts tomorrow. It's a Muslim, I guess you could say, holiday pretty much. It's 30 days where we fast from sunrise to sunset. It's the 1 month out of the year where we do that. It's obviously religious, and I don't want to get too much into religion, but the idea is that you wake up before sunrise and you eat, and then you don't eat or drink anything throughout the day, and then you break your fast at night. So it's, especially during summertime, it gets pretty long, obviously. That's kind of the gist of it, essentially. But no chewing gum, no drinking water. So it's intermittent fasting on a whole new level, I guess.
Got it. Okay, so basically from sun up to sundown, essentially there, no eating, no drinking, no gum, nothing like that. And talk to me a little bit, kind of what we were talking about before, in terms of how the time gets longer as it goes on. Like how does that work again?
Yeah, I guess it's, obviously, so the months are based upon lunar calendar, so it changes every year. So essentially, as summer, obviously the days get longer. So essentially, every day, every morning, there's a calendar that you can download on the internet anywhere. But it'll show you the prayer timings, and then also shows you like what time you're supposed to start your fast, time you're supposed to end your fast, and it changes every day. This is how sunset is every day is 2 minutes different. So throughout the 30 days, you'll see it change between 15 to an hour, I guess, over time, the longer it gets.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. So this last 30 days, right?
Yep.
Cool. All right. So I guess what I want to dive into to start is like, obviously this isn't your first rodeo, right? Like you've gone through this in the past. This comes around once a year, right? For 30 days, correct? So what are some of like the nutrition and fitness struggles that have kind of hit you in these last few years? And I want to dive into that first, and then we can kind of start to create some strategy around that.
Yeah, well, I think, the misconception is that, hey, you're not eating for, for 15 hours a day. So essentially you're going to lose weight. But to me, that's never happened. If anything else, I think I end up gaining weight. A lot of it too was just kind of obviously during the shutdown. It's kind of crazy because typically you're every night with your family breaking fast. So essentially you're eating, a short snack to break your fast, and you're eating a big meal afterwards, especially in the weekends, everybody gets together. And so there's no really choice to be eating healthy, or at least maybe during the week is a little better, but it's hard because you're hungry. So as soon as you break your fast, you're just eating anything you can get your hands on. And typically you're making dinner before. So you kind of just anticipation is there, and then trying not to gorge. When it comes to working out, I mean, it's always difficult because when do you get it in, right? Someone like me, when I work out, I drink a ton of water. So it was like, I almost drink more water during that 1 hour than I do sometimes during a couple hours or even the day. So typically I haven't really ever worked out. So I mean, right now I'm almost at the point now where if I didn't reach out to you, I was almost going to say I'm not going to be able to work out for 30 days. So I'll try to get some, walks in maybe, or some kind of low impact workouts, but nothing super crazy. Because it's a short period of time between eating and sleeping, and then trying to get the workout in between, or even getting it in the day when you're already pretty exhausted.
Right. Yeah, and like not to mention you have like all of your everyday responsibilities of like real life, like your job and your family and all that
Yeah,
stuff
you
too,
get
right?
to sleep all day long. That's something that you're not supposed to do that either, right? So no cheating.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. So let's kind of break that down. I want to dive into essentially the workout side of it. So in the past, did you work out during those 30 days or not? Like, what did that look like?
I'm pretty sure you know my history. I really didn't do a lot of working out.
Got it. Okay. All right.
So I mean, in all reality, I mean, previous rig did not. I mean, now obviously that I'm more focused now, I mean, I'd like to be able to work out. So I was talking about yesterday with Nick. Is like, hey man, how do I squeeze in a workout and then try to eat properly in those, from 8 p.m. till 5 a.m. How many hours is that? 8 hours. right? So maybe 9 hours. How do you,
Yeah.
yeah, how do you fit all that in? Right.
Yeah. Well, and so I guess my question would be is like, would it make more sense for you to like work out before the sun rises? Or would it make it more sense to work out after you break your fast with that first meal?
Well, typically for me, I like to work out in the morning. So ideally for me, I'd like to just get up earlier. I get up at ideal day for me is getting up at 4:30, 4:45, work out for 30 minutes, an hour, then eat breakfast, and then get the kids ready by 6:30. That puts me now an hour and a half behind where I need to be done. So in all reality, I'm like, okay, well, if I want to keep the same routine in my morning routine, I gotta get up at 3 a.m. to work out for 30 minutes at least, 3:30, maybe 4 o'clock. This way I can get 30 minutes to prep something to eat and then actually make sure I'm ahead of time where I'm not getting past the break off time.
Got it. So if I was to say like, all right, well, for the next 30 days, what's going to be more realistic with you trying to do that scenario or with you breaking your fast with that first meal and maybe even a small meal and then being able to work out and then have another meal after that? Like, would
Yeah,
it make more sense? Because I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about stuff like 30 days, like, honestly, it's going to be much lower intensity stuff, right? Like you're not going to want to be doing high intensity exercise, like Orange Theory, CrossFit, spin, so even
right.
Peloton stuff, right? So you're gonna want to do like lower intensity stuff, like so focusing on walking and like getting those 8 to 10,000 steps a day, like that would be a great goal. And then
Right.
flexibility. But I guess my question would be is like, for you specifically, what makes more sense? Like, do you think that training there at night after having maybe that first meal that you broke your fast with, or waking up fasted, doing a workout, and then being able to essentially, do that morning schedule that you just talked about there?
Yeah, essentially, it sounds better to do the evening one. I feel like you have eat something and be able to do something. This for me, my schedule with the kids, it's always kind of hard. Maybe till after I put them to sleep, then I could probably get something in. Maybe at something more of a late night workout. I don't think I have a problem working out and then sleeping. Some people have a hard time being able to do that. So it'd be interesting. I really never do evening workouts. So for me, it's kind of like it's foreign. But I don't know. Listening to you talk, it may sound better to do an evening workout to maybe even help if either before snack or after snack or even after your big meal to be able to kind of walk some of that off, right? Because it's heavy and passing out afterwards is difficult, and then getting up and eating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like the walking goal, like the NEAT, so that non-exercise activity thermogenesis, like that only counts for like 10% of like the calorie burn equation. But more importantly, it's just gonna make you feel good, right? Like getting your activity, getting your steps in, going for a walk after having that meal, where that you break your fast with, like that's just gonna make you feel better, getting fresh air, getting sunlight, all that type of stuff, right? But I think the workout piece, like I think at the end of the day, you might have to look into this 30 days and think to yourself, okay, well, you know what? Workouts I might not be able to be as consistent with those. I might not be able to get the 5 or 6 workouts a week that I was getting. But if I
Right.
can sneak in maybe like 2 to 3, right? And then I can make sure I'm hitting my walking goal at 8 to 10,000 steps every single day. It's only 30 days, right? You're gonna get back into a normal routine. Like you're not gonna like lose all this muscle mass or like lose all of your results in 30 days,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I have had clients though in the past that they did the morning scenario, right? And because they had such a big meal at night the night before, that actually allowed them to feel really, really good doing a fasted workout first thing in the morning.
But
Also, they didn't have this particular person I'm thinking of that also didn't have kids and all that going on. So it was like he was able to, work out, do his post workout and have the time to get ready for workout or for work and head out the door. So
yeah, I mean,
um, I think you
idea.
just have to decide like what scenario works best for you, right? What have you been doing for the last 3 months? Have you been somebody like you that's super, super active, right? Then I really wouldn't sweat it because I'm like, look, I'm not going to lose my gains, if you will, right, in 30 days. But if you're somebody that hasn't really been that active and who has been trying to maybe start to be more active, especially with the whole quarantine situation going on here, then that walking goal is phenomenal. 8 to 10,000 steps a day. And then based off whatever you have, right? A lot of people are limited with exercise right now or with workouts right now too, right? So body weight workouts, or maybe if you have dumbbells or bands, and just being able to get in something. Like a lot of us in our head, I think that we have to do this like long, like hour long, hour and a half long, 2 hour long workout or whatever. But it's like, even getting in 10 minutes, Like that's something. Something's
But
always better than nothing, right?
that's been the kind of beauty of being in quarantine. Honestly, I realized that I can get a pretty solid workout in 30 minutes, where before it'd take me an hour at the gym because I'm walking around or whatever on my phone. Where at home I'm literally like just knocking it out in 30 minutes and like, all right, cool, I just did what I usually do in an hour. So
Yeah.
definitely realize you can get it in a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's, not to get off topic here. I definitely think that's something that people are learning though from being quarantined here is just being resourceful, right? And where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, I think for the listeners here, the workout piece it depends on you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with just focusing in and being active and getting in your daily walk. I would say if as a bare minimum, get in a 30-minute or hour-long walk after that big meal that you have after breaking your fast, right? Like just being able to walk that off and help with digestion. I mean, that in general will just make you feel better.
sure.
But let's start to dive into the nutrition piece, because I think the workout piece is going to be individualized, right? I mean, it's either going to be you're going to be fasted, it's going to be first thing in the morning, you're going to need to do a post-workout meal for sure. So if you have the time, awesome. If not, maybe
Yeah,
you can fit it in at night. And again, I probably wouldn't do a workout after not eating all day long. Probably
yeah,
not going to feel that great. So being able to get something small in, preferably carbohydrates and protein, and keeping it low on the fat, that would be recommended. And then that way you can get something in, keep it lower intensity, right? And then you can have kind of your big post-workout meal there. But yeah, let's dive into kind of the nutrition side of it. So as you mentioned there, you said that essentially the biggest problem here, right? And I've seen this as well, is you haven't eaten all day, you're starving, you go to break that fast, and 9 times out of 10, it's not the healthiest of foods. It's a lot of like fried food and things like that. So what are some of the, like in the past, what's some of the food that's been used to break the fast?
well, typically, especially on the weekends, like I said, there's always family get-togethers. So this year is obviously different than normal, but typically it's traditional fried foods. Obviously, you're not eating all day long. You start craving the craziest stuff. So you're craving pizza and burgers and all that stuff. You're like, all right, I can't wait till I eat. So you just start imagining things you want to eat. So essentially, it's closer to dinner time. If you're not prepared, obviously you're gonna eat whatever you're dreaming of or salivating over. So it typically becomes you're eating a whole bunch of shitty food, fun food, I guess you say if you want to eat it, but it's definitely not healthy most of the time.
Got
I
it.
would eat a salad during Ramadan, to be honest with you.
Got it. Got it. All right, cool. So if we look at, what you said was in the past, you've actually gained weight during this 30 days, which most people would think you would lose weight, right? And so when we look at the definition of like, all right, well, how does that actually happen, right? We know that you have to be in a calorie deficit in order to lose weight. We know that you have to be in a calorie surplus to gain weight. So that means overall across those 30 days, you were in a calorie surplus, which
Right.
led to that weight gain. So now it's like, okay, well, man, that must have meant that you ate a lot of food, a lot of calories, in that time between essentially you break the fast and you go to bed there, right? So I think being prepared is going to be a huge thing, right? Because like you said, if you don't know exactly what you're going to be eating that night for dinner, then you haven't ate all day. Like you are going to go crazy. That's all of us. That's like, congratulations. That's part of being a human being, right? That's what we all do, right? But I think the big piece is, what I always try to say, and again, some people I'm sure haven't been like tracking their food intake and they have no idea how many calories they're actually consuming. But
Mhm.
if you have been tracking that, and if you do know how many calories you're consuming, the simplest way to think about this is essentially what intermittent fasting is, right? But just a little bit different. Instead of skipping breakfast, you have breakfast, but you skip lunch and you have dinner,
Right.
right? So basically, you take your total calories for the day and you just chop it in half, right? You have half your calories before the sun rises. You have half your calories as soon as as soon as the sun goes down there, right? But you have to know how many calories you're actually consuming, right, in order for you to know how to chop it in half. A great thing to look at is you can literally just use a free tool. You go to tdeecalculator.net. And so that just stands for your total daily energy expenditure. It just asks you to put in like your height, your age, your weight, your perceived activity level, some different metrics like that. And it'll tell you what your maintenance level calories are. Okay. So once you know what your maintenance level calories are, well, anything above that would be considered, let's say, a calorie surplus, right? Which would make you gain weight. right? And then anything below that would be considered what's called a calorie deficit, which would make you lose weight,
Sure.
right? So if you never track your calories and you have no idea, you could use that free calculator just to kind of give you a ballpark number. Now again, it's a calculator. Don't it's don't like think it's like 100% accurate, but it can give you a ballpark number. Um, what's interesting though, Rick, is a lot of one of my friends, Andreas. I just had him on the podcast. He's actually an expert in intermittent fasting, and I was talking to him, and the majority of the research on intermittent fasting is actually from Ramadan. It's actually from participants going through Ramadan. Because if you think, I mean, they're fasting all day long,
Yeah.
right? So it's not the typical maybe like 11 to 7 schedule, right? It's a little bit different, but I mean, you're still fasting. You're still going through an intermittent period of fasting in that 24-hour time period. So I think preparations, wrapping that up and putting a little pretty bow on it and tying it up would be preparation's key, right? Because before that week starts, you have to prepare. You have to like literally know what you're going to eat for that meal 1 and for that meal 2 every single day for 7 days, because you know that because you're going to be fasting way more than what you're used to, you're not going to have a brain that you can rely on, right?
Yeah, pretty
Your
much.
brain's going to be all over the place. Your brain's going to be telling you that you need to go crush all the tasty food, all the unhealthy food, all the bad food. And look, like there's nothing wrong with enjoying that. I mean, maybe that's something that y'all do plan for and it's once a week
Yeah.
or whatever, right? But like the planning piece is essential. So I would like break it down with my family or whoever's kind of leading from the front with this process, and I would say, all right, it's Sunday here or whatever, right? And I'm gonna, or better yet, we're starting tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So I'd be like, okay, well, tonight, what are we gonna do for meal 1 and for meal 2 tomorrow, for Saturday, for Sunday, and literally just like plan that out. Maybe it's every single night in advance, or maybe it's a week in advance. Everybody has different schedules, and everybody is, some people are busier than others, so it just really depends on how many people are we cooking for, and all those different questions. But planning. That's got to be the key. When you plan, right? You typically do much better than if you don't plan. Or better put, failure to plan is planning to fail, right? So
I was just gonna say that. Dang.
So now thinking about that, I mean, what's kind of like, let's start to actually strategize specifically for you, and then hopefully maybe some people can just like listen to how we're going to do it for you, and they can apply some of this stuff to them.
Sure. Yeah, because my biggest question before we got blind stuff was like for me was like I never did intermittent fasting, so there's so much information kind of before I met you, like there's all this shit everywhere in the internet talk about intermittent fasting and friends that do it, and they talk about you only drink coffee, water when you break your fast, only eat liquids, don't eat solids, and all that stuff. And that's kind of where I was like, all right, so I'm really trying to be proactive this time around and maybe try to actually use this for intermittent fasting and see if it helps me. So kind of win-win, I guess. That was one of the biggest worries. All right, do I actually is there a proper way to break it for intermittent fasting versus just, okay, it's time to eat, so I'm going to get my whatever 1,000 calories in this meal.
Yeah. So I mean, I think, and that's a great question. So for people listening right now, step 1 is don't break that fast with crappy food, right? Like make sure that we're breaking that fast with a good quality meal, with like, so I always talk about the plate method or the athlete's plate, right? Where we fill up half the plate with vegetables or fruits or a combination of both. We fill up a quarter of a plate with like starchy carbohydrate, and then a quarter of the plate with the protein source there. So build your plate like that. If you want to go back and have another plate, awesome, whatever, but like build the plate like that, because when you build the plate like that, the quality and the quantity of your nutrition should be in a pretty good spot there. So I think I would never. I mean, that's step 1, right? Like, and everybody knows that, right? Don't break your fast with a whole bunch of junk food or like really fast food or like greasy food, all that type of food. Like, we all know, like everybody knows that that's not what they're supposed to do, but they still do it, right?
Looking back is typically, like I said, right now, the big difference is typical. Let's say this was not shut down quarantine time right now. Typically, we'd be getting together with mom and dad and all the family, and essentially they've literally prepared this smorgasbord of all this fried food to break your fast, and then after fast is over, they made these, traditional food, which is, you're just around families, you're just kind of, it's like our Christmas pretty much, right? So imagine it's a big holiday and celebration. So as time gets on, it gets bigger and bigger meals and more people together. So I
Got
feel
it.
like we're prepared this time, since it's only us right now, family wise. So like, there's no big ones yet. Maybe we'll open up before all this ends.
Well,
But
and that's a great point. I mean, look, like in quarantine or not, right? I'm sure there's going to be families that are making those traditional dishes, and they want to enjoy those things. And so this is when we go back to that idea that a lot of people, we've heard it before, nothing new, but it is portion sizes, right? The problem with throwing out portion sizes is that, again, your brain is that you can't rely on it when you've been fasted for however many hours there, right? And so again, that's why I would say break the fast with an athlete's plate, a plate method, like that plate I just described. Break it with that, and then go portion out some of those traditional foods that you want to enjoy,
yeah,
right?
it makes a lot of sense actually.
Because from a satiation standpoint, it happens to me all the time. It happens to clients all the time. I mean, it's again, it's part of being a human being. Like if we let ourselves go too long without eating, we've all done it. I'm sure you've done it, right? It's like we look up. I mean, what time is it right now? 4 p.m. We look up. It's 4 p.m. You haven't ate all day. It's just been like grinding, working, and now you're just like you just want to like go crush anything in sight, right? So I mean that situation, if I had something in the fridge to be able to go grab and microwave real quick, right? Versus me me going in there and having no food at all. Like if I have the microwave meal, like I can just pop that in, I can eat that. All right, now I'm good. But if I didn't have anything there, if I wasn't prepared, well, I'm leaving and who knows where I'm going. Probably, out of Mexican food, right? Whatever. Chick-fil-A, right? So I love the idea of kind of thinking about the athlete's plate. Now, essentially what would happen is typically, you would do the athlete's plate or that plate method for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, kind of for three major meals, right? Now, you have two options here. We could either break that up into two, like we said for the calories, and do half the calories to a really big breakfast and then do a really big dinner, right? Kind of half and half the calories. Or we could still do the three meals, right? Essentially, it would just be that breakfast, and then it would be the meal to break the fast, and then you would go on your walk or work out or whatever, and then have that third meal.
Right. Yeah, because Nick, I was talking to Nick yesterday, and he's talking about, well, just get a protein shake in between if you really need to get some more protein in. I was like, man, I'm not getting up at 2:30 in the morning to chug a protein shake.
No, definitely do not wake up at night to eat. Like that is definitely not recommended, because you want to get your sleep there, right?
Yeah, if I'm listening to Justin over here, I'm supposed to sleep majority of the time, so I'm gonna end up losing sleep by trying to like eat at this point, sacrificing both.
Yeah. Well, hey, I think at the end of the day, the light at the end of the tunnel, or like the piece of relief, is like it's only 30 days, right?
Yes, exactly.
But I think a point that I talked about with clients in the past that I've gone through this is like, when they successfully completed it. And when I say that, like if we have 30 days, we have 30 opportunities to not quote unquote eat like an asshole to break your fast.
Right.
Right. Like, and so like you feel guilty. Like if you gain weight through this, or if you say that you're going to do better this time and then you don't follow through with that, you feel guilty after it. Right. And so this whole process they are going through right now, I mean, I don't think that we want to have those emotions after this is over, right? I mean, I think that we want to follow through with the things that we say that we're going to do, and be proud of ourselves after this, right? And so I think at the end of the day, it's one of those situations where it's like every single day is an opportunity, and it's an opportunity to succeed, to kind of crush the day. And so you have 30 opportunities here to plan ahead, to set yourself up for success. And you're not going to be perfect. And the first time you mess up, don't quit, because you're going to mess up. But as you know, right, we got to just keep going on there. And once we get through those 30 days, like, who knows, like you might actually be in a much better spot than you've ever been before in your life, at this point going through it.
That's what I'm hoping, right? I mean, I'm not saying I'm the most devout guy and has crushed every Ramadan by any means, but I'm looking at this opportunity to kind of break all this right now and really try to, it comes at a good timing where I really need to refocus and really hit it down. So that's part of the reason why I reached out to you, man. Like, hey, if I can get a little more motivation to really, have a good plan, essentially what to do, then you can set up for success. If you don't have a plan, you're not gonna be able to do it anyway. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that's that abundancy mindset going into this, right? Is like, how can I get the most out of it? right? Rather than being like, oh God, this is gonna suck, like. So it's just all perspective with it, but yeah, I think from a nutrition standpoint, like for you, then it would be like, all right, like if we were going into Friday right now, right? Like let's just plan out like tomorrow. So
Yeah.
I'd be like, all right, what are we gonna do for meal one, and what are we gonna do for meal two? Right now, you're currently eating how many calories? Ballpark number, if you know,
About 2,400, 2,000 calories.
2,400. You said. So if you're eating 2,400 right now, then we would basically just break that in half, right? And so that's kind of a lot, right? Because you'd have to be like, man, I basically have to eat like 1,200 calories at each meal, which actually for me, I mean, it's not really that much. I mean, I eat like 1,000 calories at each meal, but um, that's essentially what has to happen. So now for you, what I would do is I would like go on my fitness pal and just plan out what meal one's going to be and what meal two is going to be. And that way, from a quality and from a quantity perspective, and just from a planning perspective in general, you're ready to go execute on tomorrow.
Right.
And I would just do it one day at a time like that. And again, just think to yourself, you don't have to do this ridiculous planning for the rest of your life. Like it's literally
Right.
only for 30 days. And
Yeah.
honestly, you're probably gonna build a lot of awareness from going through it
Hmm.
because you're gonna be able to rely a little bit more on this guy. Like when you're in a fasted state, there's a lot of positive things that can come out of that.
Sure.
But if you're fasting and then you're eating crap every single night and not working out and moving your body or anything like that, then it's like it's kind of outweighing itself
So you think
there,
it's
right?
a benefit of either loading up in the morning versus the evening, or any opposite? Does it really matter?
I think it's more of a preference thing with that because at the end of the day, it's just going to be total calories, right?
Right.
So you could just do one meal a day if you wanted to. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's just going to be where are those total calories coming in at, and it's going to be a preference because some people like maybe they in the morning like they don't have that hunger response,
Right.
and maybe they have way more of a hunger response at night. So again, kind of case by case basis there, but there's not a right or a wrong. It's what's going to set you up to be most successful in terms of consistency there through those 30 days.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure something that I definitely was wondering is, hey, is it better to do one or the other, or even drinking water during the time where we are fasting? Is it better to consume all the water I'm supposed to do throughout the day in those short period of time, or do I just drink? How do I consume water?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, from a water perspective, so general here would be like shooting for half your body weight in fluid ounces of water. So again, you're probably not going to be able to get that much water in before the sun comes up. I'm assuming you're probably going to get more of it at night, but we also don't want you like waking up throughout the night because you drank so much water, right? So ideally, maybe you would break it up and you get half and half again, right? Half before the sun rises, half after.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I think the thing that we've got to remind ourselves of again is like if we can get the eight to 10,000 steps every day, phenomenal. If we can get a workout in, phenomenal.
Right.
But if you don't get it in every day during those 30 days or whatever, but you get it in 80% of the time, then that's amazing,
Yeah.
right? And the same thing with your hydration goal and your sleep goal. Like, these it's only 30 days. So out of everything that we have control over, how can we prioritize the thing that we know is going to make the most impact on your goal here, which for you is not to gain weight during this, one of them at least, right? So for you, I'd say like that's got to take a priority, and we know that what's going to control that narrative the most, nutrition, right? So I would say track your calorie intake to the best of your ability. I know that there's going to be some foods that are really hard to track in MyFitnessPal, right? Like, and I totally understand that. So don't stress those foods. You can try to log each ingredient individually and do the best you can, but at the end of the day, hopefully you can kind of control what you're logged into MyFitnessPal, at least 80% of the time, and then maybe 20% of the time you can focus on that plate method, right? And maybe you're not able to log it 100% accurately, but you can do your best.
Yeah.
But I think those. I mean, if I was starting this tomorrow and going in for the next 30 days, I think my like foundational items here would be to track everything I eat, right, for 30 days, and would be to hit my 8 to 10,000 steps a day walking. That'd be
Right.
like baseline goals, right? And then bonus points on top of that would get 3 strength workouts a week, and it would be making sure that 80% of the time, so I have 30 days times three. So I have 90, well, I guess times two, right? Or two or three, depending upon how many meals you're doing. So 60 to 90 meals. So 80% of those 60 to 90 meals I want to be proud of. I want them to be good quality. I want them to be nutritious. I don't want to quote unquote eat like an asshole in those, right? But the other 20%, oh, you better believe I'm probably going to do that.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's that balance in a 30-day period of time that, you know, is going to leave you, or is going to allow you to come out the other side feeling great and excited and ready to hit the gym and start training again if you haven't been able to get in as many workouts as what you're used to there, right?
100%.
So
I
think setting these goals, right, for everyone. I mean, setting these goals. What are your expectations for yourself? What do you want to get out of this? You know, what happened last time or the last few times that what were the struggles? You know, kind of like what we just did, right? And then starting to create like assessing that and creating a game plan as to how do I want to go about this differently. And for most people, they're probably going to come up with like a million different things, and so they just need to focus on like the one or maybe two things, and that's it. Right? So that they can actually be consistent with that one or two things. Because if you start off, as you know, trying to focus on a, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different things, like you might be able to do it for a week, but then it just completely falls off. Right?
Yep. Agreed.
So awesome, my man. Well, hey, is this helpful? Do you feel more confident in being able to execute on this?
I'm ready. I think I'm gonna start playing tonight. So I think it's a good idea to keep it simple. We talk about it in the past all the times, keeping it simple, right? So I think that'll help me a lot getting started and just planning ahead. So it's kind of good to refresh and kind of get your mind right, which is perfect, right? Kind of this is the time you want to go in positive and ready. So this is literally the right thing I needed.
I love it. Awesome, my man. Well, cool.